It's early morning. You guys already know the drill. Hadn't even got out of bed good yet, and I got another spiritual download. I feel I need to talk to a couple of people. Some of you are being real stubborn in what you're sticking to. And it's not, and in this case, it's not good. You are being stubborn about hanging around a situation that has done nothing for you spiritually. You have been stubborn about hanging around people and things that they bring to the table that has done nothing for you. You have not grown since you dealt with this person. And you have put more than the required amount of energy into it with no change whatsoever. There are some of you that are being entertained. You're being wined and dined and sexed down. But that's all you're getting. You're not getting any more. That's the way it's been for a year ago. That's the way it was 5 years ago for some of you. You're being entertained by this person because that's all they can give you, because that's all they're about. They don't have any type of spiritual depth. Some of them don't even try to hide their indiscretions from you. As a matter of fact, they try to get you involved with them, try to change your mindset about your disapproval of it. Some of you are dealing with somebody who is about them streets, and you're not, and you never understood the streets and don't want to understand the streets, but you got a soul tie, soul connection with this person, and you refuse to let them go. But see, now the rubber has met the road, and you're at a point now where you're looking around, and you're seeing that everything around you in your world is changing, but you. Your job situation has changed. Your relationship situation has changed. Your children have grown up and had lives of their own. Parents are getting older if they're still alive. Sisters and brothers and cousins, they're advancing in their careers and their relationships. And you're the only one that's stuck in the same place that you was a year ago, 5 years ago. And I don't know why I'm stuck on 5 years ago right now. Because I believe that there's more than one person that's listening to this podcast for some reason. They're involved in a relationship with that type of person. And I'm going to tell you right now, that type of person is possessed by a demon that does not care. They have feelings and they love you, but they are not going to make any type of compromise with you. They're not going to try to cooperate with you. Their attitude is, you're going to stay, and I know that if you go somewhere, you're going to come back. It's a very arrogant attitude. They have no fear whatsoever that you're going to do anything against them, that you will always comply, and they're going to do what they want to do, and they just figure you're always going to be there because that's what you've been doing. And they've been getting everything that they want out of the relationship, and you've got nothing. You've been entertained. You've been taken on the trips. You've had bills paid every single month so you can look good. You've been taken to fancy restaurants, and you've been riding around in a fancy car. You've allowed access to the digs. You've been thoroughly entertained. But during all that time, there has not been 1 ounce of commitment on their part to you spiritually. They have not made any offers to you, and not going to for one or two reasons. Either number one, they're still involved legally with somebody else and they refuse to sever their tie. Or number two, they had no intention of getting more than what they're getting from you because they are out there. They are about them streets, have been about them streets, and they got a whole bunch of others out there in the streets. You might be number one, but after number one, there's also number two, number three, number four, number five. That's how come when somebody tells me, told me in the past I was number one, I felt good about it. But no, Being number one is not acceptable. You have to be the only one, not number one. And you don't realize that. And what's happening is the blinders is coming off, and you're looking around and you're seeing everybody that you know in your circle have moved on to bigger things and they're happy, and you're still stuck. And because of that, you're starting to feel a certain type of way, and you're starting to take an objective view. And the only thing that you know that you need to do is you need to give that heifer right back to the streets from whence they came. But the problem is you've probably done it numerous times before and wind up taking them back. And they got this attitude now that you ain't never going to go anywhere. So until you make that decision and there's no other decision to make, you're going to be stuck in the same mindset that you're stuck in. You're not happy. You don't get involved in activities and hobbies like you used to. You don't keep in contact with the people you used to keep in contact with because you're depressed. But that depression is not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter how many therapists or ministers that you go to. As long as you got that person in your life, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work. Them programs are not going to work. Them podcasts are not going to work. Them self-help books are not going to work until you get that person out of your life. Give them back to where send them back where they came from. And until they do that, you're not going to have an ounce of peace. Okay? And somebody's suffering through that right now. You know, we all have difficulties in life. And 99% of dealing with a problem is how you focus your energy. Because the Creator gives us a lot of resources that we need to tackle what we need to tackle. But sometimes we're so blinded in our emotions, we don't pay attention to what we have. We don't pay attention to the tools. And there's somebody right now, somebody else, who is stuck and stagnant, stuck on somebody else's. They did X, Y, Z. They're living in this illusion of perfection, and they're actually passing judgment on someone else. But they have a plethora of problems of their own. And then every time that you turn around, they're looking picture perfect, and they're on the gram and on Facebook, looking like everything's wonderful with smiles and the whole thing. But behind closed doors, it's a mess. Now, what do you think is going to happen after years of fakery? There's going to be a breakdown at some point. Somebody in that scenario is going to break down, and they're going to see the truth for what it is, and it's going to fuck their heads up pretty bad to the point where they're going to have to seek some help. You know, I'm the type of person, and I had to learn this skill. I don't place judgment on what people did the day before they met me, because that was the day before they met me. I have nothing to do with that. Now, if it's a person that exhibits behaviors that they refuse to do anything about and have not, and don't even care, that's a different story. But if we're talking about somebody who's trying to do this right thing in life and is actually aware of what they need to address and they're on that path, they may not be where they need to be, but at least they're on that path. And you see a change in them spiritually, mentally. Those are the people that you need to support. But the ones who want to sit here and place judgment on people all the time and everything else, people like that scare me. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm very familiar with a lot of people, related and otherwise, where every time you talk to them, they got something to say about somebody else, about how somebody else needs to do something in their life. And you know what? I don't talk to these people very often. I really don't. I don't bend over backwards to, run and see them. I don't bend over backwards to go out of my way. I communicate with them as needed, and I keep the conversation short because that person is living an illusion. There is a child right now And it could be a regular child, it could be a regular small child, or it could be a grown adult who is disappointed in a parent because a parent made a few mistakes, or they have certain character flaws. They're not perfect enough for them, but they fail to address their own problems. They place too many expectations on the wrong person, when the truth is especially if they're grown, place expectations on yourself first. And you've gotten so disillusioned and disappointed by the fact that this parent has these flaws and has these issues that you don't even want to communicate with them because they didn't meet up to your standards and your expectations. Well, what about that parent's standards and expectations of you? You hadn't thought about that. So you're busy having a pity party, playing the victim. And unfortunately, we live in a world where you come across a grown person who has problems, and the first thing that everybody wants to do is to put the entire blame on the parent, when in a lot of the cases it's not. They may be partially to blame, but they're not totally to blame. And we have a lot of victims that are running around here, grown-ass victims, 20, 30, 40 years old, grown-ass victims. Not even taking the time to figure out why. And I talked to you guys about this. So this person is stuck in their head about expectations for people. They're stuck and stagnant and stubborn and not even paying attention to what's really going on, because they hung up on their own expectations. They're living in their own bubble, in their own illusion, and the whole world is moving on all the way around them and they don't even see it. They're creating a very lonely existence for themselves. Have you ever come across people that are like that? Overly critical, overly judgmental. You notice that the older they get, the less people they have around them. Folks get tired. See, these people don't have any concept of how biology works, and they certainly do not understand what the human condition is. They don't have any spiritual depth at all. They may pretend they do. They may proclaim Christianity, Judaism, or whatever, and claim that they have all of the... But hey, they're not getting the message, because in all those religions they address the issue of judgment. And apparently this person didn't get the message, so they're not as much of a believer as they project themselves to be. And see, that's part of the fakery. They put on this fake front that everything is so great and wonderful. Everything looks good on paper.